Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Saturday service. This is Scott Smith. I am starandstonellc.com, and I'll include links and things at the end. Um, this week I had a very full plate. Last week I was traveling, so I didn't do a Saturday service um, for the week, but I did want to drop in with some things, some food for thought this week um, for you to just sort of put something on your plate, put some little nibbles for you. Um, I was writing a lot about practice when I was away. Any practice, whatever that practice is for you. It could be spiritual, it could be meditation, it could be cooking, it could be whatever the practice is. The key to the success of that practice is practicing, is repeatedly doing it, is doing it with regularity, is scheduling it, is keeping it in a calendar, is having a rhythm associated with the practice. Now, when I've taught meditation and Reiki and witchcraft and other topics, um, there are the people who take the exercises and do them regularly and find their rhythm in those practices and become quite successful at least in so much in the experience of the energy or whatever it is. And then there are those who do whatever it is as it's needed or at the last minute just to try to get something out of it. And they're often not as successful. And I'm not saying that you couldn't do instant magic and make something happen. That's not what I'm saying. I am saying that that instant magic works because you have a practice in it. Um, there's that saying, people who pray regularly and people who pray for when they need something. There's a difference in the quality of the request, right? And that's an important thing. So I just want to sort of pin that there. Um, your practice could be much more powerful. Your whatever it is that you're doing can be much more effective if it's done regularly. And this is because it sort of builds a muscle. It's a psychic muscle, but it does build a muscle when we're talking about energy work or magic. Because we repeat patterns, and when we repeat patterns, we create a current from the repetition, and the current of the repetition is what builds over time. And this is where you get a lot of good energy in what it is that you're doing. I've met people who, were had various monikers and titles about what they did, um, and you know, um, I have met people who have had those same titles and monikers and had a very strong practice, and the difference between those two people is night and day. And because one has an energy, one has a power to them, and one does not. So I always encourage my students and most people to engage in a practice. Now, the thing that really stuck to me this week um, was two parts, but I want to focus on one at the moment, just so that this is not too confusing, and that is awakened in me from a quote that I read from my cousin this morning, and so I'm going to pull that up, which was um, from their page. You might have the purest intentions, but in a world full of doubt, intention isn't always enough. Sometimes people need your transparency more than your promises. So be clear, be honest, especially when no one is watching, because trust is not just earned, it is maintained. And my thought was what came up for me, what I remember about myself, which is your truest self is the one you reveal when you think no one is watching, right? That's who you really are, right? You're more than that, but that's an essential component. So if that person who's sitting in the light of a phone at 2 o'clock in the morning scrolling through things, um, how would you define that person? That person who is you're in the car by yourself driving. You are, who is that when you think the people that matter to you are not watching? the quality of that character is the rhythm, it is the bass, it is the underlying, it's an underlying principle about who you are. It's affecting all these sorts of things, and this is why you can feel like, well, that person was really fake because they felt like they were, whatever it is. In terms of practice, this is also very important because are you presenting a practice? Are you presenting an image, right? You are this, let's say you're a witch or you're a healer or you're whatever it is. Are you living in a practice with them? Or are you living in the image of that? Are you glamorizing the world with what you do by creating with the technology that we have? Or are you living it in your day-to-day life? Interesting thing about living it, not just because we're not just doing this to build power, right? The interesting thing about living it is that it is transformative because it requires listening and engagement with yourself between you and the universe, not you and social media, not you and the world around you as far as trying to garner appreciation for what it is you're doing, but rather without the need for that appreciation or without the need for approval, you're developing this relationship in your practice with yourself. Um, there's spiritual growth there. There's something that happens, right? That cannot be gotten anywhere else because it requires that in and out with your own self, listening and observation to your own thoughts and consciousness, um, that engagement with who you are, and then eventually that engagement of who you are with the world around you, and the consequence of that engagement, that's in those relationships, because this is all about relationships, right? All of this is about relationships to our food and where we get our clothing and how we spend our money and where our money comes from, and all of those things are part of um, a very man-made process of relationships, but they're part of a greater system of relationship, like with nature, with our bodies, with the stars, with each other. That invisible self that no one sees, the hidden thought, the way we speak to ourselves in our own minds or out loud, how we are when we think that no one's watching. I'm looking at that self this week, and I'm just asking, does that self bring you joy? If so, good. Does that self bring you a self-arising sense of shame? Good. Self-arising shame is great. Shame by other people, not so great. When we feel shame, we understand where we need improvement, where we need growth. We are not perfect. We are not ready to go. This is not a complete process. We are in the process and will always be in the process of becoming, and that becoming to our truest self asks for our improvement, asks for improvement about who we are. And that's my question for the week. Your deepest self, your inner voice, your quietest moments when no one is watching. Who is that person? Do you love that person? Do they bring you joy? Do they bring you shame? I don't need the answer for that. That answer is for you. But what does it mean? How can you change that? What can you elevate? What can you improve? What needs healing? What needs holding? What needs intention? Because the self that no one sees is the one that's driving the car. It's the one that's driving the whole vehicle of the presentation you give to everybody else. When we work on that self, we can get some of the best um, relationship with ourselves there and some of the best changes. So with that in mind, I'm going to pull a little card for this week. I've been shuffling cards as I'm doing this. I don't always pull cards when I do Saturday service, but I like to. I like to for the Patreon subscribers, especially because it gives us a little visual to look at in our thing, a mindfulness with the tarot. The tarot can be divinatory, it can be predictive, it can be helping us to understand patterns, but it could also be inspiring. It is the mirror of the soul. It is a way in which we can take an image and self reflect to unlock the universal keys embedded in the images, for the cards mean a thing, and that attunes to your soul and brings up a message. So, our card for this week, we just tune into that light of things. We give it one little shuffle and then a split. This is the Tarot of the Spirit. This is my first deck that I really learned the tarot on. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3. Everyone hold an intention right there. We just hold an intention to receive the best reflection for ourselves in this moment, this time. I go 1, 2, 3, and we pull a card. Ah, 7 of water. Insight. I was just talking about sevens. Um, they have an expansive quality to them. Sometimes the expansive quality we can encounter in a 7 is doubt. I think doubt is a bad thing, and it can be when it's gumming us up. But doubt can also be a very expanded state in which we are questioning what we know, we are questioning what we see, we are asking for deeper meaning. Because it's water, it's feeling. It's what's asking us to look at the feeling nature, the emotional component, the undercurrent of things. Kind of aligns with my talk today, right? The undercurrent of things is bringing us insight, or we're getting insight about the nature of that undercurrent. When we look at our emotional patterns, when we see things that have repeated themselves over and over and over again, we're having the same response, we're having the same reaction. When, where, and why, right? Because it really tells us, even though we may be right in our feeling of outrage, um, living in that place, repeated in the pattern of that emotional thing, it says a lot about ourselves, right? It says a lot about what we do um, with ourselves, with our energy, with our time, how we operate, right? It's our operating system. The emotional response is telling us how the operating system is functioning inside ourselves, the soul, right? So to get greater clarity this week, look to feeling. Look to the feelings that arise from the deepest self. Ask yourself, what is that vibe? What's the content? Where does that arise from? Emotions are transient. They move, they change, they're fickle, they're fun, but they're not permanent. But when we repeatedly have the same emotional response, we might be looking at a voice inside ourselves that could be telling us something significant. So just see what that significance is for you this week. Maybe as minor as same thing, different day. It could be something deeper. Um, I try to look at it objectively. I ask myself certain questions about how I feel about it, what I believe about it, etc. Those questions are in my Reiki book, by the way. Um, Reiki Spirit. Um, they're just great ways to self-observe um, and just see what that deepest self is feeling this week. That feeling is a communication for you. That communication is from soul. It's saying this is the pattern that you're laying out for yourself. What is that pattern? Does it bring you joy? Does it bring goodness to your life? Do you feel better? And if not, what are you going to do about it? As always, I'm available for readings, as there are lots of people. If you need assistance with anything that's within my scope of services, I'm happy to help, take inquiries. If it's beyond me, there's lots of resources available for us when we start to feel trapped, overwhelmed, or any of those things. Um, Reach out for help if you can. Blessed be, blessed be, blessed be. I'm going to stop my recording.